Well, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Zyxel's webinar this morning on SD-WAN. It's so good to have you here today. My name is Trywin. I am the product manager here at Zyxel. Unfortunately, I don't have my camera on. I am actually homesick today, but because of this webinar, I am still here to bring you just the great news of what Zyxel does. So I'm playing a little hurt, but hey, you know what? We're here today. Glad to have you here. Welcome to Zyxel's product introduction of Nebula SD-WAN. So again, my name is Trywin. I'm the product manager here. Today we'll talk about and learn more about this fantastic technology that we've brought to the small business space. And as usual, this webinar will be recorded and the link will be provided in your partner area so that you or your team members can take a look at that or review it again later on. We have got a lot to cover today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section. I'll try to answer them either in line with the webinar or at the end. So without any other, we're going to go straight into it without any kind of introductions. By the way, Zyxel has been around for almost 30 years now. So if you're new to Zyxel, we look forward to working with you as a partner. So let's go and dive on in this morning. So we just wanted to cover some background information, things like, what a wide area network is, because we are dealing with SD-WAN and trying to define, some people have different definitions of what SD-WAN is. And so we want to make that clear on what Zyxel's solution is. So a wide area network is what you're used to right now with your internet connection being the backbone. It's the wide area network. It ties together all the different locations through the internet. Basically, it's kind of like the internet, or however you have interconnected offices together into an integrated network. There's legacy WAN connections as well. That's your public internet, all the things that you get from the ISP when you get DSL connections, things like that for that last mile kind of connectivity. Now, you also have the ability to connect through an MPLS. This is still using the legacy WAN connection, using the like MPLS protocols. It basically is almost like a dedicated switch network within the ISP's infrastructure. And it's basically kind of like a frame relay rather than a physical connection between offices as a frame relay would be. This is more of using the existing routing and switches to give you a dedicated end-to-end connection. So they can commit to the different SLAs, either for uptime, for latency, and of course, in order to the ISP to provide companies with that kind of service and bandwidth, it's very expensive. So they actually price it out based on bandwidth utilization as well. But again, they can guarantee the uptime, but the costs are very high. It's also limited. The MPLS is limited in kind of the coverage areas and what ISPs can provide. So typically, to augment or to kind of add to it to make it more cost effective, MPLS is usually used like the public internet. So we use different technologies in the public space to try to give you either more bandwidth or do different types of services on it. Like using your internet, you're using like a VPN connection, or even just regular internet, right? You can send out non-sensitive information or non-sensitive applications through the internet connection while saving the MPLS for things like voice or video conferencing, things like that, to make it, again, more cost effective so you can get a lower bandwidth pipe on the MPLS and still use the other services like your normal traffic through the internet link itself. But of course, again, you're trying to just solve the price issue a lot of times. So SD-WAN solutions also come in kind of different flavors as well. So an SD-WAN is basically a software-defined wide area network. And so it's a technology that optimizes that traffic across typically multiple WAN connections. So you can use higher performing WAN, so higher speeds, and each one of those WAN costs are a lot less expensive than an MPLS or some other kind of dedicated internet connection. So one of the kind of functionalities that it provides, that we can provide, or let's see, SD-WAN has in its definition, is what we call WAN optimization and dynamic path selection. So that's basically kind of how SD-WAN kind of works. It utilizes the internet connections, the three, let's say in this picture, 3 WANs, in order to using these kind of technologies to optimize as best as possible to make sure that it latency and all those kinds of things that an MPLS provides is provided through these WAN connections. So of course you have them, you have like on the premise based SD-WAN as well, where there's an on-site gateway rather than on the cloud side of things. The on-site gateway then handles all that, and it could be a pretty cost-effective solution. You can choose, you can produce and create the SD-WAN functionality, or you can move to the cloud versions of it. So there are cloud services out there that provide the SD-WAN functionality, things like zero-touch provisioning, configuration management, or multiple site management through a single pane. So that allows for you to get things up and going fairly quickly. So deploying them, provisioning them become very cost-effective. And from an IT level, managing multiple sites this way is also beneficial, because you do get some side benefits as well. If you're doing VPN connections, it's typically managed in this cloud interface as well. So what Zyxel actually brings to play is what we call Nebula Orchestrator. Nebula Orchestrator is basically a kind of a side product, or basically a product under the Nebula cloud kind of product line. You're probably used to the Nebula Control Center. That's what, that single pane of glass where our switches, our gateways, using the Nebula, the full-fledged Nebula, is working under that software. Nebula Orchestrator is a cloud basically for SD-WAN solutions. So it offers not only the SD-WAN technologies themselves, such as the optimization for the WAN, the dynamic path selection capabilities, but also combines it with that auto provisioning and auto VPN deployment functions. So it's kind of an all-in-one. So both of those technologies that you saw before, all in the cloud, as well as having that on-prem equipment as well. So it becomes, it's kind of an all-in-one for an SD-WAN solution. So Nebula SD-WAN consists of these components. You have the orchestrator, like I just mentioned, which is that cloud interface. So again, don't confuse it with the Nebula Control Center. Nebula Orchestrator is separate from that at the moment. We do have plans, though, to integrate and eventually migrate this Nebula Orchestrator platform into the Nebula Control Center, so that all the products are then under the master, kind of almost like the master network controller single pane that you're used to. But for right now, its focus is to manage the SD-WAN kind of functionality and the VPN connections on the network. So you have the single pane for that functionality, and the hardware that it uses actually is our existing VPN series. So the VPN 50, the VPN 100, and the 300 series. There is now a capability for the product to have dual firmware images on it, so that you can flip the product between with it being a VPN device versus a SD-WAN device. Now, keep in mind that these are they're in essence two different products, but using the same hardware platform. But you get to choose, which way it flips to. So configurations and things like that, you can't just migrate the configurations from one to the other. Unfortunately, it's more so that you could standardize on this piece of hardware for either option, whether it be a VPN deployment solution or for an SD-WAN solution. So why do we want to use SD-WAN? So there are a couple of things. The LAN speeds on the networks today, typically for, as long as we've known, especially since gigabit speeds have come out, the LAN speeds have always been, greater than the internet WAN speeds. So there's always that bottleneck there, in the network. So we need to make the most out of the WAN connection, right? People always say, well, I have a 10 gig connection, but I have a 300 meg pipe. Can I get 10 gigs to the internet? No, unless you get a 10 gig internet connection. So you're stuck at the lowest, common denominator there in terms of your speed. So we want to make the most out of it. So we want to increase, not the capacity, but the efficiency of that internet connection. Also, more and more companies are expanding to multiple branch offices, and they need and their growing need as well for cloud applications. Actually, over the next couple years or next 3 years, actually companies will be opening up new branch offices, where they previously haven't. So a lot of branch offices will need that interconnectivity not only for file sharing and things like that, but then more importantly is that interaction using voice, using video between the offices as well. Right now, I know a lot of people use Skype right now, so that's one of the main applications as well that we, we test against to ensure that our SD-WAN solution is, working optimally. And of course, they're moving to the cloud, so need for cloud applications. It further fuels the need for a more efficient WAN connection. Also, lower costs for higher throughput, especially if you have companies or companies that are using like MPLS between systems. There's a lot of chain companies or like hotel chains, retail chains that use MPLS to interconnect their offices together or interconnect their locations together via voice, or to use a single voice over IP solution. So SD-WAN will help to not only provide you the same kind of reliability as an MPLS, but also increase the throughput speeds that you can effectively use without having to pay all that additional cost for those higher speeds. So what is SD-WAN? We talked about that earlier, just as a summary. It helps to build multi-branch companies, allows for them to reduce those expenses. It shortens the deployment time because of that single pane to those different remote offices. It improves the network quality and, of course, the stability of it, because you are using multiple internet connections in order to achieve this functionality. And also you provide stronger network security protection at the same time. So that's Zyxel's solution. That little last part where it provides a stronger security protection, that's an add-on basically benefit that differentiates Zyxel from just your normal standard kind of SD-WAN. So who needs SD-WAN? Of course, again, companies with multiple locations, sites that need to be secured together. They require more quality in terms of quality of service because they're using mission critical applications or voice type applications or even streaming type applications. And of course, to reduce the IT expense, because, who wants to spend hours upon hours to setting up these kinds of networks? What kind of applications need it? Well, these are some of the applications. Voice over IP calling is the number one right now. Video conferencing, the ERP systems, any kind of CRM. When you're trying to work through an intranet where you are connected to a remote office and you have files sitting over there and you're trying to do things, a lot of times it will, if it's laggy, it's going to cost you time. Streaming media is also a big growing sector as well. If you're doing kind of digital signage or anything like that, that would also be if you need to do real-time kind of interactions. High definition video, of course, CAD servers. If you have remote offices, remote users who are opening files or doing live edits, and there's a lot of cloud services now that there are interactions where people are doing live edits of documents or even 3D things. You can see even in the future the need for latency for hospital care. There's even the sci-fi is on its way, in terms of remote doctors doing surgery, things like that, where latency, jitter, obviously you don't want to be lagged out while, there's in the middle of some sort of procedure, let's just say. So there's things like that kind of can fuel the growth of SD-WAN. Of course, the enterprise is already using SD-WAN now, but it's quite expensive. So what Zyxel is bringing is to the small business, bringing that reliable internet connection, maximizing that, being able to do the provisioning of the products cost effectively and efficiently, and to make it secure at the same time. Zyxel has been known for our security products for quite a long time. It's been, now I think it's the 6th generation of UTM products. I think we just launched ours. I think it's our 7th product or 7th generation product, which is our ATP product. So we are, very focused on making sure that the connection is secure. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So reliable WAN, again, we're using WAN optimization. We're using dynamic path selection to doing these functions. If you're not totally familiar with that, we can go into some more technical details on a later date if you need some training on that. But basically what WAN optimization does is what it sounds like. It will optimize the WAN, making sure that different types of traffic, different types of applications that we detect are going through the WAN connection as efficiently as possible, or has the highest priority. So we can prioritize things like voice over IP and video conferencing, while kind of demoting the traffic of somebody downloading from Netflix, for example. We can make sure that that happens and make sure that the latency and the jitter is unaffected by that. Dynamic path selection, that is another key function that that we'll talk about as well. It allows for you to make sure that your whatever packet of traffic is heading down which interface of your WAN connection is choosing the best path. So really, that's what it is. The WAN optimization, it uses multiple different types of technologies. It helps to mitigate the TCP degradation. So the times between the handshakes and the acknowledgements and the traffic passing through the internet right now. You can do multiple simultaneous streaming. Basically, we're sending multiple bits of information across the internet to see which one basically goes through fastest. Dynamic detection and adjustment, so we can actually detect through the interfaces on a packet level. I know a lot of you are used to our USG series, and our USG series has things like bandwidth control or bandwidth management, and also like load balancing, and those are typically done at the session level. So if you're downloading a file or things like that, or open a stream of some sort, usually the session is the choice of the session happens on a single WAN, and typically it will stick to that the WAN connection until it's done. With dynamic detection is you can go down to basically almost like the packet level. So packet by packet for certain types of applications are going through different WAN connections as fit, right, as needed, to make sure that it is going through the best possible connection. And in fact, the simultaneous multi-streaming allows for you to kind of send through multiple WAN connections at the same time. So you're kind of optimizing, making sure that whatever traffic you're sending into the internet is going to find its best possible path from where you are at. So the dynamic path selection detects basically, it constantly is checking for the application priority based on the application, to prioritizing the connection. It looks at also the jitter, the packet loss, and the latency as well. And it uses that. So in this particular case, if WAN 1 starts feeling like it's slower or it's less optimal running between the two sites here, for example, then it actually will automatically send the next packets or the next groups of packets through WAN 2, which is a faster connection at that point in time. And of course, it's constantly checking. So back and forth, it may go, and it does it automatically for you. So it's quite effective in making sure that you're taking the path that is of less jitter and less lag. So like, for example, if something happens within the network, not only between, only between that WAN connection itself, but if there is a brownout down the trace route or down the route of WAN 1, that would be detected and instantly further traffic would then go down WAN 2. So that's what it does. It's in a brownout case, or even in a hard disconnect or of the WAN 1, it will automatically go to WAN 2. But now it's doing it while both connections are still up, it is choosing the best path. So on the advanced provisioning side, we're here to just reduce the overhead of your IT. We make sure that it's easy to install, simple to deploy, easy to manage for multiple tiers of sites. Especially if you are a managed service provider, we've gone a little bit next level versus the current existing Nebula tree, and I'll show you a slide on that and how we've kind of increased it, the levels, so that it maximizes if you are a managed service provider, being able to manage kind of multiple organizations, multiple sites at the same time. You can, with the Nebula orchestrator, you can quickly set up the different sites, and you can do it with different steps. So you can configure it either through the cloud, you can ship the box off, and then using either a USB drive, USB key with the correct information on it, the exported information for that site, you can register, you can get it to log in and connect to the orchestrator, or you can use the email link that can be sent to your IT. So the IT can then just click on that active link and it will connect to it and provide the appropriate security information, things like that to get it to hook up to your Nebula orchestrator on the cloud. So of course, our focus is also on securing your network. So we protect the network with encryption and VPN to make the connections between them. The offshoot of that is that you have, typically for SD-WAN, you'll need multiple internet connections as well as site-to-site VPNs on those. Basically, that will allow for you to do that WAN optimization and the dynamic path. If you don't have two internet connections, then really you can't really take advantage of it, because there's no way for us to optimize it on an internet connection that doesn't exist there. So we have to pass it through it. Now we can still do the WAN optimization in terms of application prioritization. So we can prioritize different applications like Skype and WebEx, things like that we can recognize on the application level. We can still prioritize that even if you're using a single WAN. But of course, SD-WAN is that full benefit of being able to do those multiple WAN connections. And so from the security products, from these security devices now, they will come included with the 1 year services for, I think for SD-WAN. I have to double check to see if you already have an existing product, how does it active? I think it's in your MyZycel account. I'm pretty sure it is. When you log into your MyZycel account, you'll be able to see the SD-WAN functionality for your VPN series models to activate. But we also then sell 1 year bundles in a kind of an all-in-one bundle pack. That includes the VPN capabilities, which is included. You have all your firewall functions. You have your anomaly detections like application patrol. You have your geo enforcer and content filtering, along with your SD-WAN functions. So we'll be releasing a bundle pack security license for the VPN series. Right now, you have to buy the content filtering and the geo enforcer a la carte at the moment. But we're going to make a whole bundle that will be a 1 year renewal. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to come with the SD-WAN for 1 year, I believe, anyways. So you just go there and activate that 1 year. Basically, it's a 1 year trial. But then you can then take benefit of this application control and geo enforcer when you upgrade as well. So I talked about how we've kind of enhanced the kind of structured tree to really benefit a managed service provider. By a show of hands, how many of you are consider yourselves a managed service provider? It'd be good to know. All right, great. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, this will allow for you now to not only manage the organization and site like you're used to in the Nebula Control Center, but you can go up one more level to the group level, where you can, basically you as the MSP can manage the different organizations and site. I believe there's another topology where I need to double check. I think they had even enhanced it one more level. So there might be 4-level topology. I have to double check. They had made some changes in the beta, which may have changed this number. We just had training on it just a bit ago, and in that training there was a 4-level topology. So it's going to be the MSP is going to manage, basically, I forgot what they called it. It wasn't groups. But basically you can have multiple groups. That's it. You can have each MSP could have multiple groups, and each group could be different organizations, and each organization could have different sites. So you can see how you can split it up on how you want to manage either regions, countries, and then retail chains or companies within that, and be able to manage it all under one single pane of glass here for the SD-WAN functionality. So VPN versus SD-WAN, it's really about selecting between. You can select now between multiple modes. We made it flexible for you to choose a single hardware platform and choose between it being a VPN only kind of device for security or in an SD-WAN mode. So you can use basically through the Zycel portal. You can then choose to change the product basically into an SD-WAN mode. It will reset it to defaults and grab the appropriate or implement the appropriate firmware for the SD-WAN function. So then at this point, the product becomes an SD-WAN, product. Now you can also then change it. So you can decide that you want to go to the firewall functionalities. So you can use it just, straight up if you wanted to choose that path instead, or you can reset it to default, and then it will become the product that will allow for you to choose the two paths again. So it depends on your need. Again, you can standardize then on a single hardware platform and choose the two different paths of that. So the licensing is what you see here. When you buy the SD-WAN functionality license, you get orchestrator management, you get the dynamic path selection, the optimization, the application control, everything you see here, and includes the 30 days of monitoring data, as well as 300, basically a full year's worth of logs, storage logs. So you're able to see all that information. Now, if you decide to use you could still use the VPN series in the SD-WAN management without licensing. You'll still get the orchestrator management function, but you can see there as well the storage logs, and the data is a lot lower. It'll only keep the monitoring data for a day, and keep the logs for a week. So now that is separate from if you're using syslog on the VPN device and you want to send that to your own syslog servers, then you can obviously have a lot more logs as long as you want to keep on your own syslog server. So it still has those capabilities, but if you want to use this cloud functionality, then that's what you get with the license. And like I mentioned, right now the VPN series will come with the SD-WAN function for a year. And then, of course, as you find any, as you use the product in different scenarios, different cases, feel free to reach out to us, because, as a partner, you can give us feedback and we can improve that product as fit. So the capable series, like I mentioned before, the VPN 50, the VPN 100, and the VPN 300. So you can see the SPI firewall and the VPN throughput there. Now, again, just keep in mind, I'm sure you guys already know, the throughputs are the maximum theoreticals with the multiple streams connections. So typically, if you're going to do like a speedtest.net application, the throughput numbers will be kind of around 60 to 70% of that number. So just keep that in mind. It may be in different for different cases. Now, if you're using this primarily for a voice over IP application with the SD-WAN, then you're not really going to use that much bandwidth. So unless you're going to kind of HD video camera, a live stream, there's no reason why you would have issues, unless you had a very, very fast internet connection that you wanted to do SD-WAN upon. But again, even then, that this is really a very cost effective for what it does. I think the VPN box is about I think it's somewhere around the $400 range. There was a question that Kurt asked, can the USG series do SD-WAN? At the moment, no. Of course, it's it can be planned in the future. At the moment, they're thinking about it. So we're first making sure the SD-WAN product itself, the software becomes solid. I mean, it's really solid right now as it is. But of course, we want to make sure it's improved and fulfills the different applications and needs that people have for it. And probably, very likely, it may not go to the USG series, but it very likely could go to the ATP series, or it will just continue on as this VPN series. So we may see some of that hybrid or kind of the convergence of the technologies as we normally would see. So there's a lot of different applications that that come into play. So let's take a look at the voice over IP applications. Let's see how this works. So if you want to be a voice over IP service provider, your typical issues that you have drop calls, choppy calls, laggy calls, or the quality is not that great. And of course, voice over IP is connected to the internet. So there's some security, issues there that could provide some potential threats there. The voice and the data typically are mixed, right? And so there's no way for you, unless you have to do some special things to optimize it, to prioritize it. Also, if you're doing video conferencing, that's going to need more bandwidth as well. And typically in, again, like the MPLSs, that's going to be very costly. And what Zyxel provides is that dynamic path optimization, the IPsec VPN firewall functionality to handle the security functions. The business policy is all about making sure that that voice over IP traffic is prioritized as best as possible, as well as using the SD-WAN functionality of a dynamic path solution. So that's one of the key scenarios. So if you have a chain, a hotel, restaurant chain, those kinds of things, retail chains, or even like hospital chains. I mean, hospitals and doctors' offices where they're using existing MPLS or something like that to make that secure connection. This is a solution for you to be able to build basically a cloud of SD-WAN products to be able to hook them up to each other using an encrypted VPN tunnel. So here's a retail chain, or like let's say a pharmacy, for example. We have some customers that are already field trialing this. Common problems is that they need security, a secure connection to their main headquarters that provides all of their data, the reporting information back to any updates to the POS systems themselves. They also need split tunnel because they have both in these areas in the retail chains guest networks and their private network that they have the POS systems on. There's security issues, of course, as all networks are. They have an uptime requirement. So a lot of the reasons why a lot of retail chains get MPLS is because of the guarantee SLAs of uptime. So to make sure that it's always available, not being able to either process credit cards or run different data at a retail chain, it can be very costly to the location. And of course, there's no IT typically on-prem. A lot of these retails, they require kind of outside engineers to come in and do network maintenance and things like that. So what Zyxel again provides is that secure connection, the policy setting to allow for you to optimize what kind of connection, if this is a guest network, what kind of priorities they have and what security they have as well. Being able to control them with content filtering, recognizing different applications and using the firewall, as well as using orchestrator. So a lot of retail chains may have hundreds of locations or even thousands of locations. Orchestrator and the provisioning functions of this SD-WAN solution will be very critical in helping them deploy and manage the product. Let's see what this one is. This is a managed service provider issue. He looks like he's multitasking. He's everywhere. He's got 6 arms, meaning he's just doing everything. I know a lot of you are MSPs and you wear many hats, just like a lot of us. And so this will help. Orchestrator helps to provide that not only this product, this application, but being able to do multiple things within the same thing. So you have a lot of sites to manage. You have to manage the security or VPN or even the management, secure management between those locations. The customer always wants, a lower price with higher quality connection, right? I want faster speeds. I want better quality of service. And they're usually the ones who you're spending the most time trying to fix, right? Or trying to please. So Orchestrator will help with that, being able to manage all those different customers to their different sites and give you that visibility into their network, using IPsec VPN to building those tunnels, not only for management, but be able to manage them for their different locations and be able to, again, do it very quickly. So going through basically VPN wizards that allow for you to connect multiple sites together. And of course, dynamic path solution and WAN optimization to speed up their quality of their connection, either for voice or even for normal data. So I think this is not only a good benefit for mission critical applications like VoIP, but also for your normal internet. People will just get a sense that, wow, everything seems to be working and reacting a lot quicker than what I'm used to, especially if there's kind of a lag or delay, right? So let's go. Let's see what our next, construction sites. So temporary sites where people may have obviously no IT people there, but they're and their connections are typically unstable. And a lot of times, a lot of these construction sites will get temporary internet connections. And so a lot of them are not secure at all. So you're able to now use Zyxel's solution to do that auto provisioning for these multiple construction sites, and be able to manage them and still provide them a secure connection that is optimized as well. So even if they don't get multiple internet connections, we can still help to optimize them and be able to give priority to and security to those locations. We're getting a click back. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, hotel chains that may be doing voice or IP or different kinds of accounting services, businesses. Usually common problems that at hotels face is drop calls, again, choppy calls, laggy calls. The quality of service is really bad between the reception, between the different locations a lot of times. There's also a security issue because you're not only connected to the internet, those phone systems could be susceptible to malicious attacks from the internet. And again, the data traffic is mixed, but not only that, is the guest network typically is also on that network as well. So everybody is fighting for a piece of that WAN connection. So how do we not only give more bandwidth, more optimized bandwidth, but make sure that the right services, the right applications are getting that. So dynamic path solution selection is one key function, again, to choosing, to making sure that your internet connection is being optimized as best as possible. IPsec VPN to providing you secure connection between those chains, especially for the VoIP traffic going through it. Business policy is just the making sure that your guest network is getting the lower priority versus your voice and private network. Let's see what the last scenario is. The last scenario is just multiple sites, like in a corporation. So you may have a business that have multiple sites. MPLS is too pricey to be able to connect them, or even getting a frame relay. And then obviously there's not many, there may be limitations on what ISPs can even provide you an MPLS. And then some locations don't have like a quality internet connection. So they may have like a basic one, but that single connection can be flaky or unreliable. There may be needs for security at the remote site. And again, making sure that the bandwidth and managing the quality of service of those different applications, that's usually a hard thing for those smaller remote offices to do. But again, with Orchestrator, with dynamic path selection and our security functions, we can help to manage that and be able to provide a much more cost-effective solution, but be able to do it correctly, securely, and provide multiple internet connections to those locations that may have low quality connections, and be able to do optimization on that. Ken had asked, is the prioritization between site-to-site VPN? It actually is achieved automatically through its primary function is through the VPN tunnel. So a lot of the traffic, like the VoIP, is going through that VPN tunnel. We optimize it through it, but kind of a side effect to the dynamic path selection function is that when the quality of the WAN is better on the other WAN, actually all other traffic as well can also go down that WAN if the policy allows for it. So again, even normal internet traffic would benefit from that dynamic path selection, even though the main reason for it is for that that VPN solution or that VPN connection, because we have to have that communication between the two sites to kind of communicate with each other, like which one is kind of a better way or better path. So it's just doing that automatically through as the packets are basically coming through. So it's able to then communicate with each other and say, hey, this is the better path. Send it down that path as well. Now, like I said, if it's going to the regular internet, we're just sending it out the best path possible. And then whatever happens past that, we have no control, or at least little control over that once it gets out of our system. Now, if we're going, again, point to point, endpoint to endpoint, now we have information about how it's getting there, and then make some decisions about where is the best path. So you can kind of foresee, or you can kind of visualize, let's say you had not only from a site to site, but really the application can be where you have a site to multi-site, right? Or they're all interconnected with each other. You have 4, 5, 10 sites. And it may be that based on the orchestrator, and this is where this is why it's called orchestrator. Not only is it a management, but it basically helps to decide where is the best path in your site grouping, in your organization. So let's say you have 10 sites connected to each other. It may find that going from 1 to 2 to 3 is better than usually it will go 1, 2, 3 from site 1 to site 2 to site 3, maybe is that best path in terms of how the traffic should go. But then based on whatever may happen, it may decide to go from 1 to 4 to 3. Maybe it's a better path along that way. So it's all kind of being orchestrated to make sure that the traffic is getting to that location as efficiently as possible. So why does it work better? So of course, the traditional internet, it's not using any kind of special thing to it. It's not being used effectively, so the result is of a poor quality. The SD-WAN, again, optimizes the WAN connection. You can schedule, allocate bandwidth. You can schedule the different traffic. You can improve its utilization of that limited pipe that you have. So here's an example of some iPerf tests that we've done. So without WAN optimization, doing an iPerf test, we were getting with, basically we were also injecting jitter, packet loss, and also lag to the connection that we were on. So we used basically a traffic generator to creating this level of, this exact level of latency and jitter, et cetera. So without WAN optimization, we were getting only 300 kilobits per second, but with Nebula SD-WAN, we're actually able to achieve 27.5 megabits per second. So that's quite a bit of traffic improvement with that packet loss, et cetera. So we're able to maximize, make it much more efficient and using the data transmission when there is an effect, right? Of course, you might say, well, it's just going down the other WAN, right? But we can actually cause different types of jitter levels on kind of both WAN connections at different times. And it will still optimize because it's choosing at that point in time, what is the best packet flow or best packet to go down. So of course you improve with that kind of bandwidth, you can improve your downloads quite effectively. So here you're doing an FTP download and that would just seriously improve your download speeds. So obviously VoIP is not as high in terms of bandwidth, but your overall throughput, you can see that it's much more optimized. Now you think about the packet loss and jitter in terms of a Skype call, we all deal with that. So latency is always an issue with your traditional internet connection. There's either basically insufficient bandwidth, or there's some delay problems within the network that's causing it to kind of lag. It's causing a delay, and when you're dealing with just data, then that's fine. Or you're dealing with some sort of buffered solution. As long as the lag or latency is not longer than the buffer time frame, then you're okay. But in voice over IP, we're dealing with real time, or even with live streaming, or even things like this, like a webinar. You don't want, if there's live interaction between people on both ends, you want to be able to talk on almost real time and be able to make sure that that is effective. And I know everybody here has probably dealt with like a Skype call where your connection is either laggy or bad, or the other guy's connection is bad, and his image is artifacting, the voice is dropping, and it's just it's hard to communicate. A lot of times you end up going, okay, I'm just gonna ditch this program and let's just make a phone call or something like that. But so SD-WAN improves that using dynamic path selection, increases that quality of service by switching to the stronger connection. Again, not only from the not only for an application, but also by the packet level of that application. So we can transmit and be able to handle any kind of weird speed dips or latency that may jump onto that network at that time. So of course, overall improvement in the speed. Traditionally as well, it's usually difficult to deploy these kinds of solutions in the SD-WAN space. Nebula SD-WAN, again, uses that zero-touch provisioning. You're able to just connect it to the network as long as it has internet connection and it calls back home to the orchestrator. it can grab the configuration files and then it's ready to go. So if you pre-configure the device for the site, all the devices in the site can inherit that base, basically base configurations in order to communicate with one another. So deploying SD-WAN is quite easy. You can get it up very quickly by just adding, let's say, 5 sites, saying they're all part of the same site group or same organization, and apply the interconnectivity, and basically it will create the VPN tunnels that's necessary between those locations together. So again, using SD-WAN even for managing your VPN tunnels is also a great way as well. There's also in the traditional networks is the security typically is not up to par with a lot of these kinds of applications that require SD-WAN. So Nebula SD-WAN provides you that secure connection, like I mentioned before. Application Patrol, GeoIP Enforcer. If you don't know what Geo Enforcer is, it's basically IP internet address mapping to countries. So you can choose which countries you want the traffic flow to be either from or to. So you can say I block everything except for IPs that originate or from the or are registered and originate from the United States. So you can do that level of filtering. Really enhances your security as well as the content filtering. So we include that comprehensive security license now. I guess that's what it means. We include it now in the device. So again, check your VPN 50 licensing in myzycel.com and see if you have that there to activate. If not, feel free to reach out to our support or to myself, and we will take a look at what's going on. Of course, the traditional network can be very difficult because the architecture, a lot of times when you're trying to build these interconnections between each other with all the different hubs to the central office, or you may have multiple central offices that everybody needs to interconnect. A lot of the old ways of building VPN tunnels have been where you had to build a connection between every location for every location. So it multiplied very quickly when you are going beyond 2 or 3 sites. So using the SD-WAN, Nebula SD-WAN, and Orchestrator, you're able to centralize that cloud management, or the management of that in the cloud, being able to deploy, again, like multiple sites all at the same time, really. So you can really save on having to fly people out to the different locations to do the install. You can get somebody who's more local to just do either maybe even contract somebody local to do the initial installation, which is basically hook it up to the internet, right? So you can get probably services out there, people who can then make that connection for you, or even the office may have somebody who's just somewhat technical. They've installed their home router, and you have clear instructions that say, hey, plug WAN 1 into your internet connection, and then we'll take it from there. That kind of thing. That's what SD-WAN, the Nebula Orchestrator, will allow for you to do. So let's take, actually, there's a video I wanted to show. Where is that video? Oh, here it is. Let me go back one. Let's click on, let's see if this video will, I gotta change my setting real quick to make sure that it is optimized to play a video. All right, let's see if we can get this video and sound to go. Will it go? There we go. Nope, I guess it's not playing. So basically it was just a demo of a voice over IP Skype call. Unfortunately, it's not playing at the moment. So that is actually then our conclusion. Whoops, where is? That is the conclusion of our Nebula SD-WAN introduction. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me in the Q&A section at this time. If not, you can always reach out to me at tri@zycel.com or to your sales rep. Again, if you're looking for which hardware, it's that VPN series. So that's already on sale. You can find that in distribution or online as well, but you're going to get the best benefits as a partner. If you aren't a partner with us yet, please take a look at our partner program. I forgot to put a slide in here for that. It's just partner or VARS, VARS.zyxel.com, and that'll take you to our partner page. And you can use that to sign up and take a look at the benefits you get with being a partner at Zyxel. Hey, thank you, Alex. Thank you for that. Alex basically said, I hope that you're feeling better. Happy Thursday. And anybody else, we'll look forward to seeing you again at another webinar. Everybody who's in the United States, happy Thanksgiving, since we won't have another webinar until probably till December. We have a new partner introduction. If you haven't hit one of those up yet, join that. It'll give you an overview of all the products that Zyxel has to offer. But again, if you're not a partner, make sure you sign up for that and get the benefits of the discounts and also the sales rep and support. Dan had a question. Is there an advantage if a client wants multiple internet connections but does not have multiple locations? There's still an advantage of getting that multiple internet connection. Even though they don't have multiple locations, like I mentioned earlier, it still has the ability to do the WAN optimization. It doesn't have the dynamic path. I'm sorry, it still has the dynamic path in some ways, not to the level of what SD-WAN provides. But it will still do the WAN optimization to make sure that the applications and the policies will go out the best internet connection at that time. So you can still do optimized different applications or internet traffic. So you can maximize, still do the load balancing functionality of that, even though you may not be using an SD-WAN connection through the VPN tunnel. Of course, the SD-WAN makes sense when you're doing a site-to-site kind of voice or IP. So you're kind of double ensuring not only from the encryption level, but making sure that whichever VPN tunnel going to that remote site is going to be as optimized as possible. Thank you for that question. All right, again, if there's no other questions, thank you for taking your time out to joining me. Sorry if that, if I had to take a couple breaks there, just had to catch my breath. There's a lot to talk through. I'm always excited about what Zyxel has here and providing, and know there's a lot of applications that's already in my mind. So about how SD-WAN could be used, and I hope that we can work together in finding those ways and be able to maximize the utilization of this product for those applications. So we look forward to seeing you again at another time. Again, thank you for spending that morning or afternoon or wherever you're at with me and with Zyxel. We look forward to being your networking ally. So we'll see you again soon. Thank you.